You're
Anybody?
on.
All right, so good afternoon. Thank you for joining our third annual 13 by 6 by 2 Women in Architecture Committee for AIA Florida. And this is, we're up to 10, I think, or 9, I'm not sure. So hopefully we'll get to 13. The idea is that we have a representative of each of the 13 components in the state to talk about, as I like to call it, successes and challenges of 2 projects. So each woman, if you've never attended, has 6 slides. That's it, 6 slides, and basically presents 2 projects. And each slide gets about, I don't know, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Brooke is our timekeeper. And so this is kind of really a sharing of experiences. And I'm not used to being in a webinar. Nobody, I know how many people are here. So I only can see those who are panelists. So again, thank you everybody who joined. I will, before I pass it on to Brooke, because we do get learning units. Oh, and by the way, if you don't know who I am, I'm Lourdes Solera, Chair of Women in Architecture for AIA Florida. We need to do a poll so that we know you're here, and that's how you will get CEU credits. So Wendy, you want to do that? How it is that you do your magic?
Yes, hang on. All right, if everybody just answers that question, the 2 questions.
No, I'm not
and
really here.
we'll give everybody about a minute.
And Wendy, you're just gonna have to give us credits because the panelists cannot vote. That's okay.
Think I can
I
take care of
can't
that.
see it.
But you know we're here.
Yes.
All right, we'll give it another 10 seconds.
Because they need more time. They gotta go look for their number.
Oh, goodness.
None of
Okay.
us have memorized that.
Okay.
My poll is saying that panelists cannot participate.
Right. We know that you're here, though. We can see you.
Okay.
Give us credit.
You'll be
Got
okay.
Got it.
All right. So I think we're good now. Everybody, we're going to end it.
Everybody found their number.
All right. So we have the results. And that's just more, again, just for your attendance. Just so you know, we will do another one of these at the end. So stay tuned.
Perfect. So with that, we will start. And I will pass the mic and control of computer to Brooke Godinez from AIA Florida Northwest. It's part of the Women in Architecture AIA Florida Committee, and she has taken the leadership in this presentation. So Brooke, the floor is yours.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We have 10 women that are going to be presenting throughout the state. We have associates, we have architects, we have women at all different levels of their career. Some of them are mothers, some of them are not. But regardless of their position in the firm and what they do, the number of women that we have in leadership throughout AIA Florida, whether they're serving at the state or local level, is astounding. And they play an important role because it demonstrates to other women that they can be leaders too. I'm cognizant of it because I have an 11-year-old daughter that's constantly watching everything I do. So thank you for participating. So we have 10 women, but we're going to turn our cameras off so that we're focused on the slides. I'm going to run them off of my computer, and 30 seconds a slide, and we'll go from there. So we have Shadia Jaramillo, Caitlin Hannigan, Stacy Boynton, Sydney McLaughlin, Vanessa Smith-Torres, Arlen Gill, Holly Daughtery, Michelle Rigner, and Gina DeMiro. And Gina is Gina Khan, if that's a name that you're more familiar with. So that is a newly married architect. So I will go into that. Let me turn off my video. Okay, and so Shadi, are you ready to start?
Yeah, I'm ready. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Am I supposed to turn off my video? Sorry. Or am I good?
You can keep it on if you want to present. If you want to turn it off, you can do that too.
Okay. I'll keep it
Okay.
on.
It's whatever you're comfortable with. So I'm gonna advance it to the next slide and start your timer, okay?
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Shadia Jaramillo. I work at Green Mills Kaywood, and I'm part of the area of Florida Northwest component. And it's an honor for me to be here today. Next
Okay.
slide.
There you go.
Thank you. Ooh. Okay, so the first project that I'm going to present today is a fixed base operator project, FBO. This is the first time I actually get to work on a project typology in the aviation sector. So it was a very exciting project to be a part of. The client is Southern Sky Aviation, and this project is actually located in Panama City, Florida. They're originally a company from Alabama, so this is their first location in Florida. And this facility is about approximately 8,000 square foot and with 65 square foot for hangar space. And so one of the things that we do with clients is that we sit with them and then we start understanding how they operate, what their needs are, and what their wants are. And then after that, Brooke, if you can go to the slide before that. Sorry, I know that
Going
we're
backwards, you're gonna lose
yeah,
time.
that's fine. We kind of sit with them and understand what their programmatic needs are. And so you can see here on this like little sketches on the left-hand side that we started looking at those programmatic spaces and how they group together. So we identified 4, administrative space, pilot area, LST space, line service traffic area, and then combining everything was a terminal. And we work with our hands all the time. So we're sketching, thinking about materials, thinking about inspiration in terms of wings and planes and stuff. You can move to the next one. So I had the chance to work with one of our interior designers, Heather Beach from the Mobile office. And this project was really exciting because the client gave us really freedom to explore all types of materials and high-end finishes and adaptability in design. So we looked at lighting design as one of those things. So you can see a rendering here of the entry of the FBO, which has adaptable lighting, and it can be color changing depending on the client and their logo colors. Then we have the lobby space looking from the CSR desk towards the entry. And we use all of those architectural elements like the ceiling and lighting to accentuate your view towards the ramp. And then the terminal lounge spaces at the bottom. You can actually scan the little QR code and we have like an landscape view that's always really fun to use. But one of the challenges of this project was security. So we looked at those programs and how we could control security into the apron. And here's my favorite part, which is CA. You get to see everyone's hard work come to life. And here you can see our construction photos, steel erection, and then at the bottom, the final product coming to construction coming to an end, which these photos were taken last week during our punch. And there, if you go forward, there's a little video that should play, but it's fine if it doesn't work. This project, I'm very proud of this project because this project saw me transition from a designer to an architect. So I'm always gonna remember it, but we can move to the next one.
Okay, quicker,
And then
Shadia.
last but not least is an adult daycare, which was a project typology that I've actually never, sorry?
Quicker. 30 seconds.
Okay, sorry, 30 seconds. Okay, adult daycare, project typology that I've never worked on. Same process, identified 3 spaces. And one of the challenges for this project was the fact that we needed 30 restrooms for a facility that was a renovation of a 20,000 square foot building. And so for this facility, we only were going to have a maximum of 125 participants. So we actually sat down with the AHJ and kind of came to an agreement when it came to plumbing counts and all of that, and the difference between occupants and participants when it came to ACA. And here are some construction photos. We provided a canopy entry space for the participants and patients, and that's it. Thank you so much.
Okay, so next we have Caitlin. Caitlin, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I am currently at Southwater Architecture. in Fort Myers, Florida. I am originally from Ohio. I went to college up in Kent State, Ohio, but moved down here for the sunshine. That's working on my licensing right now, working on my exams.
Okay, so 30 seconds per slide. I'm gonna advance when it hits 30. I got my timer out, okay? Ready,
Okay.
ma'am. Go.
So the first one that I have is a private clubhouse. It was my first project with SFA a couple years ago, and it was in the middle about DD phase when I joined, but then the client decided to completely redesign the left side, the kitchen, the dining, the grill room, the outdoor area. And in this rendering on the left side, you can see it looks like windows, but it's actually our kitchen, so it's faux louvers. And then the part above that is a enclosed rooftop equipment area. It is open on the top, but this is the front of the building, so we did not want to show that. And thankfully, the project came in bid under project, so we were able to keep that, which was very fun. These are a couple photos. They did this about a month or two ago. They poured all the slab within one day, but then it started downpouring as soon as they finished, so then they had to fix that. We have had a couple lintels too low. Thankfully, since the contractor stopped them and were able to raise them. We have a lot of orange plumbing caps that are not located correctly. In the middle photo, the wall is supposed to align with the CMU, and that's my storage, but it's on the outside of the storage. So my floor sink's just in my dining room. So that's fun. But it's my first big project here and my first one where I had to join somebody late and redesign it. And that was a lot of fun. The second project I have is called Sincerely Me. It was Kava and Tea. It was a mom-daughter project where the daughter was very interested in light, airy, fun art, propagation plants, which is just, that's me. So it was a perfect project. I was able to very, very closely work with our interior design department, which was a lot of fun. My first time really getting deep into interior design. So we were able to do this above kind of structure that they're planning on potentially hanging a bunch of faux gardening or faux like vines. We designed this logo on the wall for them, and it's just finishing construction. It should be opening soon. They had so much kitchen equipment for such a small little bar area, but it was a lot of fun. And then these tall cabinets you can see in this image is where they were going to brew the tea inside of there. So we have like pot fillers inside there. It was a little interesting to me, but it passed and nobody had an issue with that. We have it all like ventilated so the steam can leave, and we accounted for it. But it was simple, it was fun. The contractor was his first commercial project, so that was very interesting.
Miss Stacy,
Hello,
are you
good
ready?
afternoon, everyone. I am ready. Great work, by the way, so far, ladies. My name is Stacy Boynton, and I am representing the AIA of Fort Lauderdale. And I'm currently not working for anyone for a reason you'll see in the presentation. But some great things have been coming my way. So technically, I am working. You can get started. So the last project that I worked on while I was at Kravet Architectural in Boca Raton was the Mai Kai. And this project kind of broke my heart a little bit because I definitely wanted to see it all the way through. But I got them ready for their DRC approval, which they have been approved at this point, and the project's moving forward. I do want to note that it is one of two nationally historically designated sites in the city of Oakland Park. You can go to the next slide. So there were several challenges on the site plan alone, dealing with the parking calculations. We had to get very strategic and creative with how we were going to work these numbers. We had to do research with rideshare. And as you can see, because a lot of the site was taken up with landscape design, which is what the owners wanted. Some of the other things, with the Bora Bora removal. That was also another thing, because it is designated historically, we had to present an argument to have it removed. The floor plan that you're looking at here is kind of the area of work. Back in 2020, one of the sprinkler mains burst in the kitchen overnight and flooded out the entire kitchen. So that prompted the renovation. And basically what the owners want to do is cut the kitchen in half and add an event space. But as one door closes, another one opens. I left Kravitz, and what you're looking at here is a new project that was actually approved by City Council as of the 19th of this month, and that's Big Tree Barbecue. And I'm really excited for this one because it's kind of like my first thing on my own. And it is for a Black-owned barbecue pit or barbecue restaurateur, if you will. And it's in a Black community. So it's very dear to my heart, this project. And one of the things that I was often involved in with the Northwest CRA district in Pompano Beach. And that's kind of how I got a call to say, hey, do you want to work on this place? And I'm like, absolutely, I will figure it out. So that's Big Tree. And the site is extremely challenging, but yeah, gosh, 30 seconds does go so fast. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Next, we have Sydney.
So good afternoon. I'm Sydney McLaughlin. I'm with AIA Gainesville, and I'm with the University of Florida. And you can go on to the next slide. So I've been with UF for about 20 years now as a project manager. And then in 2018, I became the university architect. And so when I'm looking at campus, I had to add quilting back into my life to have a bit of a creative output because I miss doing architecture. And as an owner's representative, I just inform things rather than actually designing things. And so I look at campus as like a green background. And then we have a few pieces that may pop out like you do in a quilt of having something that's like an iconic piece. Next slide. So I'm going to talk about two different projects. The Wertheim Laboratory for Engineering Excellence. I was the project manager on this one, working with Grimshaw and a really talented team. Prior to this building, there was no heart for the College of Engineering. So the idea was that the ground floor would be for freshmen. There was a lot of attrition and they lost roughly 30 to 40% of their students every year would come out of it. So we wanted a very transparent building where people could walk by and get excited about engineering and want to be an engineering student and also want to be part of the engineering student. But one of the impetus was to create the heart of the College of Engineering. And so to do that, we had this grand lobby space. And this is a section of that lobby space out of Grimshaw's documents. And you can kind of see that there is an angled roof or angled ceiling inside that lobby. It's a really light angle. The lobby itself is very modern, a lot of metal, a lot of glass, a lot of concrete. And it's very gray. And then the sloped ceiling was supposed to just give a little bit of different feeling to the inside of it to have you create from inside to outside. But what we discovered during construction, and you can kind of see on this picture, it is such a slight angle that it almost looks like an error. And so what I learned from this project is if you're going to make that gesture, you need to make it more intentional because it does look like a construction error. And so I would next time have it be a little more of a drastic angle. Also, the dean was upset that the building was so gray that she added in all this artwork to try and add a little bit of color to it. So just again, to think about that. The other building I wanted to talk about was the new Malachowski Hall with Bolenson, Swinsky Jackson and Walker Architects. And again, another great team. It's a 263,000 square foot IT building. The outside is to bring the research inside out. So how do we have the 4 colleges in there? How do you have them collaborate together? And it's supposed to be an iconic building on campus. It just opened up this past spring, and so I'm giving lots and lots of tours of it. But it's LEED Platinum, and we really wanted to look at maintenance for the building. So it's gorgeous. This is from the grand opening party. It's gorgeous. It's very warm inside. But what we missed when we were designing it is those wood slat ceilings off to the right. Those are about 50 pounds each. So typically our maintenance crews would go up one person on one ladder to get above the ceiling. But now it takes 2 people in a lift. So maintenance-wise, it's really, really challenging for the university going forward on how do we get above that ceiling. Thank you.
Thank you, Sydney. Miss Vanessa.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vanessa Smith Torres. I am president-elect of AIA Miami.
Ready?
Ready. I am also a project architect at Perkins and Will, which has about 30 studios around the country, around the world. And the first project I'm going to talk about is challenging and fun, and all of the things, because we're actually working with all of these different studios, Atlanta, Charlotte, New York, and others, for a project located in Memphis. And that project is actually on St. Jude's main campus, which is really nice. It is an addition of these two towers that you see over on the left. And then there's a third building that's connecting those towers to all of the existing buildings that you see on the right. And then, well, not pictured is an underground parking garage. So somehow in one project, it's really 4 projects with all of these different studios working together, not to mention all of our different consultants. And when people ask me what phase is the project in, the answer is all of them. So we are working on schematic design for interiors, as well as currently under construction. So it is a fast-paced project, but honestly, like, one of the best teams I've worked with, from the contractor to all the trade partners, really working together to do something great for St. Jude. So it's going to be office, it's going to be clinic space. So it's going to be a really great addition to that campus. And then non-architecturally, tangentially architectural, another project was working to bring the Say It Loud Florida exhibit to our state. And so that I did with AI in Miami, collaborating with the South Florida chapter of the National Organization of Minority Architects. And it's an exhibit that features women and BIPOC designers from around the state. And I also want to give a shout out to my co-conspirators on this, Naomi Harrison and Amanda Barton, who the 3 of us worked really hard to bring this together. And it is actually available to move and do a Say It Louder at your local area. If you're interested, let me know. And it's to elevate and bring the voices of those who are not traditionally celebrated in architecture. And this whole process, near and dear to my heart, because it opened when my son was 2 weeks old. And this was something I basically worked on throughout my maternity leave. I was fortunate to have a good recovery and have the time, energy, and ability to have this be my maternity leave project. And then Rafael, who we also call Taco. So if you ever hear about Taco the architect, that's him. So he's been able to see it and be there and be a part of it with me. So if you're interested in participating and bring Say It Loud to you, let me know.
I was going to make you say his nickname. Okay, Arlen.
That's really great, Vanessa. Thanks for sharing that. My name's Arlen Gill. I'm an architect in Orlando, representing AI Orlando. I am also, I'm a DLR group in the higher education studio, and I am also the Young Architect representative for AI Florida on the National Young Architects Forum. If you go to the next slide. So I actually picked 2 projects that kind of bookend what I've done so far at DLR Group. This is one of the very first projects I worked on, and I like to think it's one of those patch in the quilt that Sydney presented earlier. This is the Institute of Black Culture and the Institute of Hispanic Latino Cultures at the UF main campus. And I see some people in the audience who also had a hand in this, as well as Sydney. So thank you for coming and seeing all about it. I actually submitted this project for the Say It Loud exhibit in South Florida, and it was selected. And I love this project because it came to me at a time in my career when I was working on my licensure, and I got to learn a lot about the ins and outs of design, from engaging with end users to detailing, exterior envelopes. So it was just a really great atmosphere, and the impact that it had on the community was also fantastic. These buildings were replacement projects for 2 older buildings on campus that I remember seeing when I was there as a student. So it was really meaningful for both student groups to participate and have a say, along with the faculty, the staff, and the alumni groups, to hear the input that they wanted to see reflected in the design and ultimately carry that out. The first slide that you saw, or the last slide you saw, was actually the Institute of Black Culture. The one on the screen right now is the Institute of Hispanic Latino Cultures. As an immigrant from Cuba myself, I think this is really powerful to see a space like this that's welcoming to students on campus. And it really reflects the colors, and it creates an authentic environment and a home away from home that I think it's really critical to students on both institutes. Next slide, please. And then this is actually my latest project. There is a groundbreaking schedule for this next week, and this is the new Gary C. Wen Engineering Building at Florida Polytechnic University in Lakeland. This is a research facility for students to work on with potentially industry partners. And this is a different kind of challenge, again, from documentation and design input. It's a design build project, so it's a little bit of a different animal in terms of how it's been developed. And we're working with the university to look at phasing design, but also with the challenges that come with different different funding provided by both states and donors, and seeing how that impacts the timeline for the design development as well as the construction. So phase 1 is going into effect officially this month, and I'm really excited to see that take place. And if you go to the next slide, you can see a snippet of the interior. This is primarily research labs, as I mentioned. There is a shelled out space in the top floor that will be potentially utilized by industry partners moving into the campus to partner with Florida Poly in future. It also includes various research offices and a spot for industry partner research and collaboration with students as well. Thank you.
Polly.
Hi, so I'm Polly Daughtry from Palm Beach chapter. I'm architectural director for a firm in West Palm Beach and really appreciate being invited today. So next slide. So when I was invited, my initial reaction was no. While I do have some pretty pictures to share, like on the screen from a previous firm, my recent work isn't that Instagram worthy. So I thought I would switch up the presentation a little bit. My 2 projects are what we learned by saying yes and by saying no. So next slide. I joined a landscape architecture firm and started working on this 50-acre golf course turned park. I said yes because it was a learning opportunity. Now, as a result, I've been able to implement phytoremediation strategies like cleaning lead out of the soil with sunflowers and design a community garden where we talked about building community resilience. Saying yes gave me the opportunity to learn and put into practice topics that I had an interest in. Next slide. I have an interest in sustainability and resilience. However, these types of projects don't just land on your feet when you're starting an architectural practice. You have to say yes to typical and sometimes boring projects. I was asked to work on this historic residential addition, which is a tedious and frustrating submittal process. By saying yes to something we were not 100% comfortable with, we've been able to create a niche in this market for historic projects. Next slide. Saying no is equally as important. This is a project we should have said no to. I had a gut feeling that this wasn't the right client for us, but it was early in the practice and we needed projects. This was the type of client that was impossible to manage, wanting 24/7 attention, and ran us ragged. We should have trusted our gut from the start and said no. So we learned to say no when the project or client is not right for us. Next slide. We also said no to this project. This would have been a really amazing opportunity to work on the renovation of this important historic Rosenwald School in Okahumpka. It was actually in the town next to where I grew up, but it was 3 hours away from where we are now. We said no, even though it would have been a fantastic project. We said no because we felt we could not give the project the attention it needed from so far away. Next slide. Finally, we did say yes to this project that is a restaurant complex. While we were, it's a historic building that we're turning into a restaurant. While we were comfortable with this project programmatically, as a historic restaurant, we were not 100% comfortable with the submittal process. By saying yes, we've been able to be a part of a project we feel will be very successful and important to the city. So in summary, we took a chance and said yes more often. It's opened doors and provided a niche for our firm. And we also now know when to say no when the project or the client is not right for us. That's all I have, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Polly. Michelle.
Hi, I loved that say yes, say no. That was so great. My name is Michelle Rigner. I am representing a Space Coast. I'm a partner at DAG Architects. We have 6 offices across the Southeast. I started my career with them in the Destin office and was there for about 5 years before moving to Melbourne in Brevard County to open up our newest DAG office. So I'm now a member of the Space Coast chapter. So this is one of the first projects that I worked on at DAG Architects. It's a residence in Mexico Beach. Great client, beautiful project. It's won some Florida Northwest Chapter Design Awards. There's a lot of things I could say about this project, but what I want to talk about today is, you know, sort of its survival story. So you can go to next. So in October of 2018, Hurricane Michael hit Mexico Beach as a Category 5 hurricane. And this is right at the eye of the storm. The house had just gotten dried in and the whole area was really devastated, largely because it was an older beach community that was built before updated building codes. And you can just really see the impact of that in the right image there. And even this house on the left that was built to current codes and even beyond still sustained damage. The frangible walls did what they were supposed to do on the bottom level. And the house survived, and a year later on the right there you can see it was rebuilt and brought up to where it was before the storm. The picture on the left shows a plate that the client found at their childhood home just down the street, which was completely destroyed, but there was some artifacts from her house that she grew up in that they were able to recover, and they're displayed throughout the house. So this next project is Luna Apartments. It's DAG's first built project in Brevard County. It's 249 units with a parking garage. And our client was really dedicated to the precast system, largely because of its resiliency, which we just saw in the last picture is so critical living in Florida and building in Florida. You go to the next slide. So we really committed to expressing the precast, and you can see on the left there, some of those precast panels are exposed on the walls and the ceilings of the unit, as well as throughout some of the amenities. In the bottom picture there, you can see, you know, form liner, sandblast, integral color to the concrete. Those were the toolkits that you really have to work with precast to create the aesthetic on the outside. And one of the amazing things about this precast system is just how quickly it gets erected. So speed to market is very appealing for multifamily developers. So, you know, it was a quality product that offered resiliency. It also went up very fast. And these apartments are performing very well. People love to live in them because of their, you know, improved acoustical qualities of the precast, helps create some sound privacy in between residents. And it's just been a really successful project for our client and the community.
Thank you, Michelle. Gina.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm Gina Demerel, formerly Con. As mentioned earlier, I'm recently married, but I'm representing AIA Tallahassee today. And I currently work as a registered architect at Con Architects, which is our family firm. So my career as an architect is kind of like a comedy sketch so far. I graduated with my master's in 2019, and then my first year practicing as a formally educated architect was 2020, which is when the pandemic hit. And I was handed about 6 or 7 healthcare projects that were halfway through because of a senior architect that retired. So my first year out, this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at a Zoom screen. 5 of us are all on there. We're trying to navigate. This is the OR, one of the projects I worked on, which is an OR room. Very complex, very hard to navigate when you cannot touch it. You cannot talk to people face to face. And the inspectors from ACA, I'm sure people on this call have worked with ACA and with healthcare projects before, but they didn't know how to navigate it. We didn't know how to navigate it. So it was extremely challenging, great first year project. Moving on, this is my most rewarding project. This is Soma Walls up here in Tallahassee. It's a 25,000 square foot project. It's multi-use, it's retail, it's restaurants, all this fun stuff. I was the lead architect on it, and I started also in 2020. So this was my first year practicing. And as you can see here, this was the slab pour. We were super excited. It's right in downtown. That's when the framing started to go up, which, you know, me being fresh out of school, I was super, you know, everything was brand new. Everything was very exciting. So we originally started this as a shell, and as the project progressed, the developer brought us on to do the interior build outs. And if you go to the next slide, the developer got a tenant in that built a distillery. So this tower on the right here was a tower that we had to add mid construction. So we had to figure out the structure. We had to figure out what it was going to look like, how it was going to integrate to the overall form of the building. And then I fought for this view portal in the tower that would show this copper still 29 feet tall. That would kind of, you know, shine, I guess, be a beacon for people that were at the adjacent unit, which was a restaurant. So it's been a fun project. It's been 4 years in the making, and it has been a huge challenge being at the helm of this gigantic, complex project, commissioning equipment that I've never even, you know, heard of until this project, but it's been fun. So architecture has been a very, very fun, fast-paced career for me so far. So anyway, thank you for having me, and thanks for listening.
Okay, the last one we have Angela. Angela, are you going to share your screen?
Yes, I can do that. And again,
Okay.
sorry for my technical disabilities here. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, Wendy's going to let you in.
Excellent. Sorry about that. I did. I sent you a compressed
Hang on.
version too. If that helped.
Let's see if you can share it now.
Technology always creates a
Sharing?
fun day, right?
Always, never a dull moment. That is part of. Okay.
Oh, you
So
got
hang
it.
on, let me try and view full screen. Okay,
much
can you see it full screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I know it's short time. My name is Angela Hendershot. I'm representing AIA Tampa Bay. I'm a principal and owner at Row Architects. And since I have very little time to speak to you guys today, I wanted to give you a little insight on my career journey. It's through architecture has been full of ups and downs, but I would say that what I've learned is that the best architects are excellent planners. Our firm does a lot of public work, so cost is always a design issue and a challenge. And we are constantly trying to take lemons and figure out how to make lemonade. A significant segment of our practice is higher education. I would say that's probably my favorite segment of our practice because there's such a tremendous variety in the work. And we've been really, really fortunate to be able to work all over the state on major projects, minor projects, really some very exciting work that impacts, you know, the lives of students. But I would say that, you know, the focus we have on K through 12 work is even more gratifying sometimes because of how directly impactful it can be. I always say I was not gifted with the patience of a teacher, but working on K-12 projects is a way I can contribute to the education of students, and that's really exciting. A project I wanted to feature today is the renovation and addition project we did at Tyrone Middle School. This was you could really very nearly call this a reconstruction. There were just a handful of buildings we had to keep. Unfortunately, we had to keep buildings that were at the opposite ends of this very large and strangely shaped campus. So we really focused on trying to stitch the campus together through our new work and focus on the circulation of students across the campus. The renovation scope that we had really varied quite widely. The gymnasium you see in the upper right had a very light touch, just really finishes and fixtures to bring it back to life. But the image on the left was originally a disused locker room building with unused middle school showers that we were able to convert into a new music suite. So again, huge variety, all on one campus. And the project has been really extremely successful. Again, we really focused on stitching the campus together through circulation, creating a new beacon of this large 2-story volume that reaches out to the community and kind of reintroduces the school to the community. And we're very, very proud that this school was the only F school in Pinellas County and has climbed to a B since the completion of this project. So I would just leave you with a quote that it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men, one of my all-time favorites. And we're really excited to be part of that as architects. So thank you.
Okay.
Well, that was awesome, ladies. And Brooke, if you don't mind, we can take questions and the answers. And if you see in the bottom of your screens, there's a Q&A. Please, obviously, put them in there, and then either Brooke or I will read them. And I think there's another poll for membership, or you got it all covered there, Wendy, for the CEU.
We do have one more poll that we will launch before we hang up. So we can do that after the Q&A.
Perfect. So the first question I have is for Polly. Could you please elaborate on the historic building renovation into a restaurant, and how the submittal process differs from traditional commercial projects? Tongue twister for me.
Okay, so
Polly's, right? Yeah, it was yours.
Yeah, so that project, it was complicated because it's 2 historic residences that were moved to the site in the 90s. And there was the submittal process in particular. We had to go through the typical historic, which I was very familiar with. It had, however, the historic board is used to reviewing residential projects. So they were not particularly familiar with a commercial project, which has all this ductwork that comes out of the roof. And so we had a challenge because it was on the corner of a street, and you can't just hide all the ductwork on the back side because you see it on the left side as well. So we've had a challenge with that. But we did get through historic. We reached a agreement. The second step of this was Downtown Action Committee, which I wasn't familiar with, and that was the part of it that we had a good client that trusted us. And we did as much research as we could prior. I went to meetings ahead of time to try to figure out how the process worked. And the big issue is we had to get variances because we were restricted because of the location of the buildings on the open space and the green space and the transparency of the buildings. And we got through the transparency because they're existing historic structures, but you had to have like a courtyard on site, and there were all these requirements. And it was a lot of back and forth. It was talking to the people on the board prior to try to get their feedback. Eventually we got through it, but yeah, it was a lot more challenging just because of this extra process, and they're not familiar necessarily with this historic process going through the commercial side. So
great, thank you. I personally have a question for Michelle. That precast housing you did, is that rental or kind of owned by people? Just curious.
The precast housing, ask me that question one more time, Lourdes.
Yes, so is the customer, the people living in there, are they renting it or do they actually own it? And I have an ulterior reason for asking that question.
Because the investment and materials probably, maybe, but yeah, so the developer, North American Properties, who we also did Cascades with in Tallahassee, designed it, built it, they're currently holding it also, yeah.
So people that live there renting the facility?
Rent, yes.
Okay,
yes,
so
yes.
there's a follow-up question to that, but my reason for asking the question is that I love the architecture. I love how the interior of the apartment has the precast, but I'm thinking, how am I gonna hang my picture, on that concrete?
Well, most walls still have gyp on them, so it's really just the exterior walls that have the precast, but yeah.
We have a question from Dean Scott. He wants to know the acoustical privacy was improved. So his question is, were the interior demising partitions also precast to help that? If you could elaborate on that, since you made that statement.
Yeah, for sure. So the demising walls themselves are not actually precast. We chose a wall system that has, essentially a framed, an air gap, and then another framed wall. Where we're really seeing it makes a difference is also in the flooring systems. You know, if you've ever lived in an apartment with somebody above you, you know, you can hear people walking around, and if they have kids or dogs, it's even louder. So the framed walls seem to perform well between the units themselves, but it's the floor and the corridor walls, which are precast, and that's made a big difference.
Sounds good. I have to say that I've been doing this for many years at AI in Miami, because ours is called 8x8x2. And obviously this is our third year for AI Florida, but I'm always amazed on how everybody takes that short time and just thinks outside the box every time, and gives me presentations and work that really talk about our careers and our paths. And I have to say, I think Polly's, yours takes the cake. Yes and no. I think that was a very on the target of what this was, because this originally started as idea about presenting two projects, one that was a success and one was a failure. And I didn't like the word failure, so I always changed it to challenge. And because I'm a believer that any challenge is also a success, because you learn something from it, as you so clearly and eloquently presented in the say yes and say no and the value of it. So I thought that was, I always love how you guys, some people, you know, I always tell them do videos and somebody always pushes in a video. I say one image and I get 10 images. So I always love how we do plan, but we also think outside the box, and how do we stretch the instructions, including, can we go back, right?
Well, I think it's hard though. Like, you know, I had some really pretty projects in a bigger firm, and so many people on this panel today have some amazing projects, but I work at a small firm and they're not all like perfect, and they're not, you know, they're additions and renovations, and sometimes I get some cool restaurants. So I think a lot of people can relate to that, but I do love seeing like the stuff at UF and all of that. That's cool.
No, I think it's great. Everybody has really good work. And what Stacy didn't mention, and maybe she should mention why she technically doesn't have a job. Stacy, I'm putting you on the spot because we all want to be your cheerleader.
Yeah. Well, it's unofficial, but I am starting my own firm. Is that what you're alluding to?
Well, and then you also want to get rid of some words before AIA.
I'm lost.
Associate, you know, licensure.
Yes, yes, definitely want to get rid of them. Hopefully in a few short weeks. We had a panel discussion, which is our why, and this Big Tree Barbecue is my why. I've got to get it done. So yes.
And I think you said you had, how many do you have?
One more.
Yes, one more. So we all need to be your cheerleaders. That's why I'm putting you on the spot.
You can do it, Stacy.
Yes, it's like I said, it's done. I've been studying a long time for it, and honestly, it's funny because I've been getting calls to do things, and I've been telling people, no, I don't want to take on. I'm trying to focus, but there were a couple things that I took on. Of course, I'm in a very good relationship with my past principal, and I consult him for a lot of things on how to do things, and it's been great. But honestly, those experiences have been helping with the exams. So I guess real life experience is the best experience. So yes, very soon should be done.
Excellent, excellent. Does anybody have any more questions? We have a few minutes left. Don't be
There's
shy.
a question in the chat. Irene is asking, what is your experience for all the panelists? What is your experience in the design build delivery versus a traditional design bid build?
Oh, thank you, dear.
That's a good question. Row Architects has had some excellent experience with design build. We've also had some less than excellent experience with design build. I would just say that you know your build partner extremely well, and make a careful selection. It's better not to get into that relationship if you don't feel that your values are aligned, because you are signing up to be subservient to the contractor. That is, not something that happens in design bid build. So only do that with a partner that you are comfortable with, that their goals in the project align with yours. That's my advice.
I second that too. I think
Yeah.
also it shifts the dynamic a lot in your typical design project because technically that builder is your client now, not the actual owner of the building. So that's something to think about and how that's going to impact your process.
And then on the owner side, I wholeheartedly agree too, because even though I hold the contract with the builder, I talk with the architects regularly and I hear the pain points. And you know, and I need to make sure that I'm trying to protect the architect and trying to make sure that the vision doesn't get compromised because the contractor has the contract.
I actually have a question to Sydney, since you are the university architect. Is it a pendulum that universities sometimes want to do design builds and sometimes they want to do CM and sometimes they want to do traditional process? I don't see as many design build at the university level, and maybe
No.
it's because you want to have that control, maybe.
Well, I do like to have control somewhat as much as I can, but it's probably 90% CM at risk. We only do design build if there is a really good argument for it, you know. So if it's like we just did our housing as design build, but there has to be a really good argument. It can't be a challenging building, in my opinion. So no renovations, you know, where you really need to have creative thinking out there. I'm part of a University Architect Association, and we talk a lot about delivery methods, and nobody really is a big fan of design build unless it's, you know, a residence hall or a green site where it's just, you know, the same thing over and over and over again. But once creativity becomes a part of that process, really we want to have an independent thinking creator on there.
If I may follow up, I'm sorry to hog the questions. The residence hall, why exactly would it be appropriate for design build versus, I mean, I understand the other building types, but why is design build more the avenue for this design delivery?
Well, I'm not a huge advocate of design build, just to kind of put that out there, but it was seen as it's kind of the same room built 700 times rather than different rooms built 5 times each. Also, we had a design criteria architect who started off as like a master planner for us, and we knew that that design was not within our budget. And so we thought that if we were to go out to the design build community, we would be able to have a team that works creatively together to help us realize that vision and get it to our budget that we needed.
Okay, makes sense. So the reason I asked that question also, not only because I wanted to know, but if I think of the housing that Arquitectonica did at University of Miami, which is kind of that village thing, that is definitely not repeat the same box 700 times.
Right.
But I can see the logic in something in which the box is similar 700 times.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, when we're looking at budgeting for it, we budget per head in bed. And so, you know, the higher that dollar cost, the harder it is for us to pay back those bonds.
All right. Anybody else has any questions? We just have a few minutes and maybe this is the time. Wendy, you think? I do, Brooke, you'll finish it off, but I want to thank all of you for joining us and saying yes. A lot of times without knowing what it is you were saying yes to. Those are my favorite kind of yeses. Polly, by all means, say yes, even if you don't know what you're saying yes to. And Brooke, and then Wendy, if we're going to do the last poll of our CEU.
Yes, let's go and do, this is the
Fill
real
it
quick-
out or you don't get credit.
Yeah, I just want to see who's still with us. So if you guys will take a minute and say, I'm still here. If anybody says no, that would be interesting.
There was one person that put on the questions about having to go on a flight, so.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've made a note of that. Yeah, thank you.
And we do have an event in April for our next monthly one. It'll be, hold on, April 17th. So Fast and Furious will be here before we know it. So we will certainly be able to advertise what it is. We've had a little change of schedule, so we got to put our thinking cap. So if you have any ideas, by all means, send them our way. Send them to Brooke, send them to Wendy, send them to Chrissy, send them to whoever. And Brooke, did you want to?
Okay, I think Polly wins the phrase of the day with "say yes." It's
Mhm.
really easy to say no and you think you're protecting yourself, but there's times when if you don't say yes, you're limiting yourself. So there were several people that were on our panel today that said, "Oh, no, 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 not me, no."
Mhm.
And it took a little coaching and convincing, bribing to get them to do it. And it is hard speaking in front of people, and we're not naturally inclined to do it. Some of us are more introverted versus extrovert. But when you're given the opportunity, please say yes, because that's how you grow and that's how you learn. And AIA Florida, in my experience, has always been an environment that is cultivating leadership and encouraging. I've never met anyone that didn't want to see you succeed. So this is a great place to say yes. And July at convention, we will not be meeting online in July. We will be meeting in person at convention. Shadia found this person and she spoke to our chapter's Women in Architecture group last year. And I think we're going to have her do a round 2 with us later in the year. But it's a really great speaker. So if you are planning to go to AIA Florida's convention at the Breakers in Palm Beach in July, like plan on attending. It's a breakfast. I know it's early and not all of us like to get up early, especially when we're used to Central Time Zone, not Eastern. But it's going to be worth that extra hour of sleep you lose. And there's coffee. So that makes up for everything, right? But if you're on the fence about going to AIA Florida's convention, please consider it. I know the Breakers is sold out, but I've heard several people that were on the wait list get off the wait list and get a room. So don't give up. And if you're on the fence, do it. It's a great experience to have.
Thank you for that plug, Brooke. And I'm just going to add real quick to that the April 10th is the deadline for the early bird. So again, if you're on the fence, it's time to jump one way or the other before that early bird pricing goes up. So April 10th.
2 weeks.
Yep, exactly. All right, I closed the poll. I think everybody that was still with us
There was some
answered it.
Yeah,
So
some of them are answered also in the questions and answers
yes,
section. Okay, so you picked that up.
took a couple notes on that. Thank you.
And then somebody did suggest a TAPCon's break for hanging pictures and concrete walls. I love it. So that's a good point. I mean, I like the hole you leave in there when you leave, but hey, you know. So see you guys next month. Thank you very much. And look forward to continuing these conversations. Great
Thank
job,
you.
ladies.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.